Sheriff Samsudeen Sarr, former commander of the Gambian National Army and now a political and security analyst. How did he find the performance of Captain Kemo Kanute?
Your interview featuring Captain Kemo Kanute of the Public Relations Office of the Gambia Armed Forces was nothing short of groundbreaking, signaling the first time a serving officer of the military has formally engaged the public on your platform. It was, in every sense, a bold and necessary step toward fostering transparency and enhancing civil-military relations in a democratic society. And, true to form, you posed some of the most probing and pertinent questions that continue to preoccupy the Gambian public, particularly regarding the purpose, efficiency, and evolving identity of the armed forces in a time of peace. Captain Kanute, to his credit, handled these interrogations with commendable composure and intellectual candor. His responses, while clearly crafted within the bounds of official policy, revealed a refreshing willingness to engage the citizenry on matters often veiled behind the walls of military barracks. Among the topics addressed was the now viral video documenting the nationwide tour of Chief of Defense Staff General Mahmoud Cham, a tour aimed at assessing the welfare of deployed troops and their integration with the communities they serve. The footage, which triggered considerable criticism across social media platforms, captured a corporal voicing frustration over a chronic shortage of uniforms and delays in the disbursement of monthly salaries. A sergeant was also overheard complaining about the absence of vehicles for routine patrols, though, curiously, this particular concern was left untouched in the interview. On the question of uniforms, Captain Kanute clarified that under existing GAF policy, every soldier is entitled to 2 new sets every 2 years. He added that soldiers facing premature wear and tear of their uniform may exchange their damaged uniform at the Ordnance Department for an immediate and cost-free replacement. A policy, if indeed fully implemented, should alleviate much of the discontent voiced in the video. Concerning salary delays, Captain Kanute offered a technical but plausible explanation, explaining that the alleged delays often stem not from the Ministry of Finance, but rather from soldiers attempting to access their bank accounts before the official government remittance have been finalized. Hence, what some interpret as late payments may in fact be a case of premature withdrawal attempts. One major concern, however, I found noticeably missing from the discussion is a matter that, by many accounts, continues to trouble large segments of the Gambia Armed Forces, and that is the obvious decline of Gambia's participation in the United Nations and other international peacekeeping missions. Because for over a decade, such deployments were not only a source of professional pride, but a significant financial lifeline for participating troops. Since their discontinuation around 2017 or 2018, morale has evidently dipped as soldiers now find themselves relegated to monotonous routines such as guard duty, ceremonial parades, and other uninspiring domestic assignments. In this context, the Gambia Armed Forces' increasing engagement in policing functions may offer an opportunity for institutional innovation. A serious conversation is warranted on the revival or reformation of a paramilitary force. Perhaps one is likened to the pre-1994 Gendarmerie or the Police Intervention Unit PIU, tasked with bridging the gap between the military and police responsibilities. Such a hybrid force, trained in both military discipline and civilian law enforcement, would be better suited to meet contemporary security demands while offering professional mobility to service members. Yet, despite the many insightful exchanges during the interview, there remained one thorny issue that Captain Kanute navigated with perhaps too light a touch, and that is the controversy surrounding CDS Cham's purported shoot-to-kill directive. Widely circulated and sharply criticized, the remark allegedly issued during a community outreach engagement raised alarm bells regarding the legal and ethical bounds of military conduct on civilian soil. To be fair, a more nuanced reading of the CDS statement suggests he was not issuing a carte blanche license for extrajudicial killings, but rather underscoring the military's right to use lethal force when confronted with imminent threats from armed criminals. Framed within the context of self-defense, CDS Cham's words resonate with a principle that is as old as human civilization itself. Indeed, the right to self-defense, though variably codified across legal systems, is universally recognized in natural law theory and enshrined in many domestic and international legal instruments. It affirms that individuals, and by extension state agents, may employ necessary and proportional force to preserve life and property in the face of unlawful aggression. However, the application of such a principle by armed forces within civilian spaces is a legal minefield. In liberal democracies, from the United States to the United Kingdom and across the European Union, the deployment of soldiers with authorization to use lethal force is usually governed by strict conditions, often necessitating martial law, legislative oversight, or presidential decree. Anything less opens the door to grave abuses, miscarriages of justice, and erosion of public trust. So, for this reason, a directive as significant as the use of deadly force must ideally emanate from the Inspector General of Police or be grounded in a legal framework, be it statutory law, executive order, or National Assembly mandate. In the absence of such a foundation, a soldier who kills in the line of duty, citing only a verbal pronouncement from the CDS, may find himself exposed to criminal liability and moral ambiguity. It is precisely for this reason that the issue deserves deeper public debate, not to vilify the CDS, whose concerns about rising armed criminality are valid, but to ensure legal clarity, institutional accountability, and above all, the protection of those who risk their lives in the service of the Republic. Only through such open and informed dialogue can we strengthen the rule of law while preserving the honor and integrity of the Gambia Armed Forces.